Hello everyone, this is Something Punk's Explanations, and today we will be looking at what solar flares are and how they can affect Earth. Starting off with the general definition, solar flares are huge explosions that specifically happen on the surface of the Sun, which gives off large amounts of electromagnetic radiation and are ranked in a class format. Now we will move on to what causes these solar flares, in which they usually will occur because of how the Sun's surface conducts itself. The surface of the Sun has a lot of gases, which all have electromagnetic charges, and these charges move about and interact in many ways, such as twisting, tangling, and reorganizing themselves, causing some spots of the Sun to become darker, which are called sunspots. Because of the turbulent movement of these electromagnetic charges, mostly in these darker sunspots, they often can interact in a way that causes solar flares, which releases a lot of electromagnetic radiation away from the Sun and into space, and sometimes towards Earth. There are also several different classes of solar flares, with the classes being A, B, C, M, and X, going from smallest to largest. Each class can also get a number designation from 1 to 9, allowing the measurement of solar flares to be more precise. Although most classes are too weak to affect the Earth, both M and X classes are the only classes big enough to do so, and the X class of flares are the only flares that can even go beyond the 1 to 9 scale. An example of this is the X-28 flare from 2003. Thankfully, solar flares don't affect Earth too frequently, with only the two most powerful classes of flare being able to do so, and even then they don't usually hit Earth. However, the two biggest classes of flare can cause something called a coronal mass ejection, or a CME, which can cause large geomagnetic storms on Earth. This can manifest with an aurora nearer to the equator, power grids being knocked out, and radio disruptions. They can also pose a threat to astronauts on the International Space Station, because the particles emitted from the Sun contain a lot of energy which can harm them, but they can easily avoid it with advanced warnings and by staying inside the space station. Even if they haven't affected the Earth too often, they still have done so, with some solar storms being powerful enough to affect humanity in some way. Some of the earliest dates with extremely large solar storms were March in 1582, September in 1859, October in 1903, and September of 1909, with these storms' only effect being extremely large auroras being seen near to the equator. However, after these solar storms, they start affecting humanity more as technology has become more developed, with a storm in May of 1921 being so powerful it knocked out a telephone station, burning out their fuses and even causing a fire to occur. There are also some solar storms that knocked out military electronics, with one that happened in May of 1967 knocking out U.S. radars, almost starting a nuclear war, until it was realized that the blackout was caused by a solar storm. And in August 1972, another storm blew up some magnetic sea mines, which didn't have any real negative effects. Finally, the last major interference was in March 1989 when a solar storm knocked out a power grid in Quebec, as well as interfering with some U.S. power grids. After the examples, any other solar storm that has affected the Earth has only done so in the form of large auroras that can be seen as far as Florida or Texas, with these last incidents happening in November 1991 and November 2001. Otherwise, there have been no other recorded solar storms that have affected Earth. However, these aren't all the effects solar storms can cause, as they often contribute to the Van Allen radiation belts. These radiation belts are belts of highly charged particles that are in Earth's magnetic field. These belts form because of a solar storm's particles hitting the Earth's atmosphere, which causes these particles to get reflected and trapped in the magnetic belts around Earth. These particles then bounce back and forth between the north and south poles by being reflected by the Earth's atmosphere whenever they get near to either poles. These belts are also what cause auroras to form, as when a solar storm hits Earth, the interference of the magnetic field caused by the storms often cause these beautiful lights to form. However, as dangerous as solar storms seem to be, NASA is getting better and better at predicting these flares, which allows them to give an advanced warning to parts of the world that may be effective. And as non-lethal as these solar storms are to humans, NASA has realized that these storms aren't something to be ignored, as they can still cause a lot of damage to infrastructure if left unannounced. NASA can predict these storms by using telescopes, satellites, simulations, and even AI to accurately tell when they will happen and where they will hit. At the end of the day, solar flares are not really something the everyday person should be worried about, as the rarity of the Earth even being affected by them, the almost non-existent threat they pose to humans, and the ample warning we would get if they were to affect us, solar flares will, at most, cause an inconvenience, but probably not much more than that. And thus, this has been Solar Flares Explained. Thank you for watching the video. Please post a comment about your thoughts below, and make sure to leave the video a like if you liked it, and subscribe to see more videos like this one.